Hi, I'm Scott Steiner, and this is Module 9, the case study. All right, let me get this going. Summary. First year assistant principal Richard Inman at Rocket Junior High, which has an enrollment of 900, was waiting on bus number 50 to drop off Southside students. Since he is from that area, he's been doing a lot of extra work to have a positive influence on those students. One student, 15-year-old James, um, is the leader of the group. Inman has worked really hard to help James with to make better choices and to get better grades. Uh, it has been working because James and his group's grades have improved, and James hasn't been in a fight in a couple months. That's a good thing. Inman later called James to his office to discuss a third tardy of the week, but James' fifth period teacher called right away saying that he saw James hand an object to another student, which was 13-year-old David Ramos, in the hallway. Ramos is quite different than James. He's an honor student, plays in the band, has never been in trouble at all. The teacher thinks that this could have been drugs that was passed to David. Inman had the school police officer escort David out of class and he brought both boys to his office for questioning. James said he just gave David something to hold for him. When David was asked, he began to shake, cry, and refused to say anything. Um, the officer then searched him and found brass knuckles, which was immediately handcuffed thereafter. Brass knuckles are considered a weapon and therefore a felony um, in the school district and by law um, because it was found on school property. Inman was proud of James for owning up to the situation, but soon the assistant principal Inman was greatly upset since the district had a no tolerance policy, and Inman felt trapped to help David because of this policy. Both boys were then taken to the juvenile detention center by the officer. Inman called both of the mothers. Uh, James's mother basically said, "Just leave him in there for a few days. It might teach him a lesson," which it might. But David's mother was quite the opposite, obviously, and she came up questioning what happened and why did it happen. And so Inman gave her the address to the detention facility, and she left to go get her son. All right, there we go. Summary continued. Inman was then faced with the task of writing up the expulsion papers, which would send them both to the district's DAEP program, uh, which would be tragic and detrimental to David in every feasible way. Inman knew David was innocent, but the no tolerance policy required him to fill out the paperwork and start the process anyway. Inman refused to do so and did not fill out the paperwork. He knew he was breaking policy, but did it anyway to protect David. David was back at school within a week, and James was in the DAP. The district coordinator of secondary education called Inman and told him, "Hey, man, you've got to fill out this paperwork or you're going to get a write up. You're going to be reprimanded, and it will be placed in your file for not following policy, district policy." Legal or ethical issues. Legal issues. The police officer has to follow the law and make the legal decision to detain, arrest David for possession of a weapon on school grounds. James was detained and arrested for the same because he admitted it was his as well, and it was in his possession. Both were charged with a felony possession of a deadly weapon on school grounds, and they were then sent to the juvenile detention facility. Uh, Ethical issues. Inman faced the ethical decision to follow the district's broken no tolerance policy and expel David from school and send him to the DAP program for 45 days. That would destroy David personally, emotionally, and academically. Or he could just not follow the policy, but then do what he knows is ethically right, the ethically right decision, which is not to write up the expulsion papers. He knows David was forced to hold the brass knuckles through threat of violence. That in itself is another offense, but James even admitted to it. Um, the other issue is that Inman would be reprimanded by the district if he doesn't follow the policy procedures. In this, does he want that on his file or not for advocating for the well-being of a student? Here's the thing I have the biggest issue with this whole scenario, and I've just got to get it off my chest. I'm sorry. Um, why would you bring both students into your office with the deputy and question them at the same time? All the years I was a part of this, you kept them apart. And if it was just me and David in there, and David, who literally within minutes had was in possession because that guy threatened to kick his ass. I'm sorry. Um, if he didn't hold the brass knuckles, if it was just he and I, and he handed over the brass knuckles, this situation's over. It's done, and we'll go about it that way because there's only he and I that see it. Um, and we would take care of the kid. Didn't have it in his possessions long enough for anything to occur. Um, that's my one big issue is why would that occur? And then why wasn't the principal involved? But regardless, is why would you have that happen? Why didn't the assistant principal go himself to retrieve the student and talk with the student and so forth individually instead of having the officer do it? So there you go. I can understand a little bit about the officer being in there because of the possibility of drugs, but knowing David's background and his reputation and his record, which is squeaky clean, don't think it'd be drugs. So, but anyway, that's got that off my chest. Sorry. Synthesize. Emin is faced with expelling David, who he knows is innocent, by following a broken no tolerance policy, or not expelling him by modeling the correct ethical behavior by advocating for David and face a district reprimand. So, yep, that's pretty much summed up right there. Okay. To synthesize the fact, the people, Assistant Principal Richard Emmond, tasked with expelling both James and David, whom he does not want to because he knows he should advocate for David's well-being and analyze his decision ethically. James is the 15-year-old Southside student who gave the brass knuckles to David by threatening him. If you don't take these, I'm going to whip your tail. Um, David Ramos, the 13-year-old honor student band member who was made to hold the brass knuckles through the threat of violence for at least a few minutes, according to the scenario. Um, the school's police officer is the other person who escorted David to Emmons' office and handcuffed both students and took them to the juvenile detention facility. He charged them with felony possession of a weapon on school grounds. Then you had the parents, mother of James, who wanted James to stay in the facility to teach him a lesson. The mother of David, who came to school to question Inman about her son. And lastly, the director of secondary education, who told Inman to write David up for expulsion or face a reprimand from the district for not following policy procedures, which put Inman in an ethical dilemma. Um, The place, Rocket Junior High. That's a good one. With an enrollment of 900 students. Courtyard of the school where Emin waits for bus 50 and is talking to a bunch of students. The hallway where James gave David the brass knuckles. Then Emin's office where he met with the students and David's mother. And then the juvenile detention center before both students were taken. The program, Rocket Junior High, I'm going to say it appears to be a 7th and 8th grade junior high public school. Not much information other than just it's a junior high. So that's what our junior high is in South Carolina, 7th and 8th grade. All right. Review and prioritize the information. Could the conflict, the situation, or the decisions be damaging to the stakeholders of the community? Yes, you darn straight it could. To everyone involved, the district can lose respect among its stakeholders for not doing the right thing and advocating for David's well-being. The whole district, the district, the school, everybody involved. The community would lose respect for the school for expelling David for this coerced situation that he's in. And I called it coerced because the kid was threatened with violence. You better hold this. And he literally held it for just a few minutes before he was taken to the office. Um, what individuals or groups have an important stake in the outcome? Well, David, he has the most pressing stake in the outcome. Um, well, I put if he is supposed to be expelled, I'm sorry. Wow. He is then sent to the DAEP. His whole life's trajectory can change for the worst. Quite possibility of that. Inman can face disciplinary actions by his district for not following policy protocols, and possible future as an administrator could be in jeopardy. But his reputation is also at stake among the community stakeholders and his staff, actually, because if he does not advocate for David's well-being, he's going to lose it. Uh, People see that. Uh, the district can also have a tremendous stake in the outcome uh, because it has a broken and not a well thought out no tolerance policy. One size doesn't fit all. Okay, they can lose respect for them. They could also face a very public and embarrassing and costly legal battle with David's parents and possibly even Mr. Inman if it comes to it. Have all relevant stakeholders been consulted? But no, not even close. The principal of the school has not even been mentioned in the article, but he should have been contacted right away when the brass knuckles was found, and then basically take it from there because that's a serious offense. And I think this situation would have been different then. All right. Okay, review and prioritize the information. Can I learn more about this situation? Yes. Is there any other examples like this of this situation in the district? Has anything like this happened before? What happened if it did? Does this policy have any loopholes that can help analyze the situation in terms of an ethical framework for the advocacy of David? Is there some way around some things? Uh, if it was just he and I in the office, we're already around it. But no, there was other people there. Um, you know, but there has to be something set aside in the policy so you can work with it. But evidently, there's not in this situation. Do I know enough to make the decision? I do, and I say that relatively with confidence, but I must contemplate the long-term effects it will have on all stakeholders, including myself, by doing the right thing and modeling ethical behavior as a leader should, and as the district wants you to. Options and possible consequences. When I model ethical behavior in my own personal conduct and relationships, it is very important for me to know what the results of my choices are going to be. Option one, not make a decision, not doing anything, just sitting back. There's the paper, like he did, throw it away and let it roll. Even though that's, advocating on his behalf, it is the ethical right decision not to move on it. Um, but the consequence could be negative for all, though. Just because you don't move forward with it doesn't mean it's not going to happen because you're getting pressure from the district to make it happen. So now you instead of drawing friends, you're pulling enemies. Okay. Option two, the most comprehensible decision to make in this situation would do exactly what the policy states. Follow the rules to the letter. I am a company man, and here's what it says. Here's what's going to happen. Sorry, buddy, you're on your own. Um, Decisions made for you. It's cut and dry. Here it is. That's the beauty of some of these policies. There is no sitting back and contemplating. It's you did this. Well, here's this. It's not always the best way, though. The outcome would be negative for everybody. Zilch. There would be no positives from this whatsoever for anybody, from the district superintendent to the principal, the Inman self to David to his parents, the community. Everybody fails in this situation. Option three, I would refer to the principal and the superintendent if need be before I move forward with a decision. I would put forth the ethical dilemma that this situation has created and what the negative consequences could be for all involved before I make a choice. I'm just going to tell you, my choice is not to act on it, but I'm going to contact them first. And I think I just jumped ahead. So the pros and cons, my bad. The pros and cons, option one, I'm doing the ethically right thing to do. I'm voicing my advocacy for David by not moving forward with the expulsion papers. His best interests and his well being are at the forefront of the decision. Other stakeholders will see that I am modeling the right ethical behavior and know that I'm doing it right. The cons, well, I'm breaking district policy. I have even been told by a superior, the secondary education director. He told me to do something, and I'm like looking at him saying, "Not so fast, my friend. I'm not going to do it." That would get me reprimanded and put in my file, and it could have consequences down the road as far as job advancement or placement or even having a job. Um, then David being put in that program would be detrimental to his academic and his self well-being. Option two, the pros: I follow the district policy to the letter. I will not get reprimanded by the district, and I am good. The cons, well, here we go again. David sent off to the program and expelled from school and is in hell, as the article said. Um, I have lost the respect of many stakeholders for following through with this. The school and the district will have lost the respect and the admiration of the community as well. And that's a huge blow, also. All right, next. Option three, pros. I am consulting with all the stakeholders and trying to become an advocate for change in the policy. I am seeking the help of my superiors and making them aware of the dire situation that we're in. And I say we because we are all in it. I am not moving forward with the decision until I consult with them. Others will see that I am modeling ethical behavior and I am in doing my best to advocate for this young man. The cons, well, I'm not making a quick choice. It's going to drag out, possibly keeping David out of school for longer. I don't know how the situation would be as far as would he be in school. I don't know what their policy on things like that could be, or is he virtual school? I don't know, but he physically could be out of school. I still would not move forward with the papers though. So the possibilities of reprimand are still there for me, and I could be viewed as either a weak or an indecisive leader. The best option, well, I'm going with three. I'm going to go with that one first. I know that this situation is not easily resolved because of the policy. I know that the best interest and well-being of David will not be met if I follow the policy. Before I move forward with the decision, I'll call on a meeting with the principal first to discuss the entire situation thoroughly. I will point out that I will follow through. I will point out that I follow through with the policy's punishment. All stakeholders will have a negative consequence, especially David. I would ask if there's some way to work around what is dictated in the policy. If the principal cannot come up with a viable solution, I will then refer to the district superintendent with the same conversation. Um, Hopefully, a viable resolution will come of the meeting. I have then consulted with all the stakeholders or important school personnel, at least, and I would hope that this would lead to some sort of policy change. Um, all the stakeholders have been consulted, including the parents, for which I would invite them to every one of those meetings, but one of them, both of them, any meeting. I'm going to invite them as well, so they'll know I'm fighting for their kid. Um, I would have made them all aware, all the stakeholders aware, the glaring weakness of this policy, and hopefully it started the process of change with the school board. Um, if we're to cultivate ethical behavior in others, modeling ethical behavior. Why can't the district have ethical policies that will do a better job of advocating for all students? That's the key point. That's what they need to do. Implementing my decision. I would approach the principal first and then the superintendent if necessary to explain to them that our no tolerance policy cannot allow administrators to analyze decisions in terms of established ethical frameworks in regards to punishment. and especially in situations like this. Um, one size doesn't fit all. Okay. I would lay out the negatives of this policy and point out that David's situation is the perfect example to expose the flawed policy. I would state that I would not move forward with the expulsion papers because of the situation, and if they wanted to proceed, then they would appoint someone else to do so. They can do it themselves if they want to. I will wash my hands of it. Um, David, his parents, the principal, the superintendent would be the ones that know my decision and hopefully be in agreement and a part of this ethical and legal decision making process that's taking place. At first, I would think by just dealing with it by myself, by not signing the papers, would be enough, but that wouldn't be the case. And important stakeholders would not have been aware of the situation, and they would have been caught off guard, namely the principal and superintendent, and so forth. Um, I would warn the school stakeholders of the wave of negative consequences if the policy is carried out. All would be subject to the negativity that would follow, including a very public court case, which the district would most likely lose in the court and in the community. Um, this screams for an ethically thought out policy change. Yeah, the court of public opinion weighs just about as heavy as the legal courts. Um, my meetings with the principal and the superintendent do not come to a resolution, or they do not meet with me. They said, we don't have time for it, deal with it. I will simply not say another word, not sign the papers. I will then be voicing my advocacy for David um, and justice for him, and I will let the chips fall where they may, and I will fight the battles that lay ahead, legally if necessary. I'm pretty sure I would probably fall within the right on this. Um, there's a lot of things to it, I guess. Okay. Now, in conclusion, the first thing, and I said it earlier, why were both of them brought into the office at the same time with the police officer and discussed and questioned and then searched? You do that individually. Uh, you just don't. The kid David did not have the brass knuckles for most of the day. He had it for minutes, literally. The kid threatened to whip him if he didn't hold these brass knuckles as he was going to the office for tardies. So there's a lot of, well, this happened kind of thing. If David would have been holding them all day long, that's the difference. David didn't even have the real chance to approach an adult and say, "Hey, this is what happened, and this is what I have." That's why I would have met with David alone. So he never had the chance to even report it. So we had something like this at my school happen years ago. A very popular kid whom a very unsavvy person didn't like during lunch put a knife in their backpack and reported it, described the knife and everything. He saw it, had the knife. And we watched the video. We called him in, searched him, boom, there's his knife. He had no idea it was in his backpack. It was in the back pocket. And he was adamant that's not his. He's never seen it before. You don't know how it got there. And so we watched the video at lunch. And when he went up to go get his tray, that kid walked by, got down on one knee real quick, threw it in the backpack, walked on. So we got him on video. Um, so not the same scenario, but it's close. It's close. So, was taken care of. That kid was fine. And we have a no tolerance policy, but it's nothing like this one. So, well, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope I wasn't too long winded, and excuse my little mistakes here and there. Thank you. I really don't know how to make this